Good afternoon everyone and welcome back to Adam's Fishing. It must have been 3 or 4 weeks since I last uploaded to YouTube, and that's not really because I haven't been fishing per se, it's more because I haven't been catching. I've done a couple of short sessions on the Quiet Lake, as you may know it, and to no avail unfortunately. I mean, I've had one pike out and I've taken a little bit of video, but they're only sort of like 2 or 3 hour sessions that I'm doing down there at the end of a work day, and so far they haven't produced a carp. So what I'm hoping to do is put a few of those short films together to make one for you guys, hopefully with one of those lovely carp in it. Today there's a change in the weather. It's been hot for the last few weeks, and now all of a sudden it's raining for the first time in ages and the temperature has dipped a little bit. Maybe not ideal conditions for fishing, or maybe the change is just what the doctor ordered, I don't know. My plan was to head back down to the Quiet Lake and do another short session there. Again, I've only got the evening, so I've only got 3 or 4 hours to have a go. But unfortunately, a friend of mine visited the lake today with the intention of fishing, and it was full. And that's a bit of a problem since the lockdown restrictions relating to the COVID have been lifted. Obviously, most fisheries are quite busy as a result, and my club is no exception. I have managed to get a spot on the lake the couple of times that I have been, but not necessarily exactly where I wanted to be fishing, so that may have hindered me a little bit as well. Excuses. Let's just hope I can catch one from there soon. I won't be going there today because, as I say, it's I think it's already full up, so I'm going to be going to a different lake, one of the larger lakes on the club ticket, where hopefully with there being a bit more space, I'll be able to squeeze in somewhere and do a bit of fishing. Which leads me on to why I'm doing this little introduction here in my kitchen. Is because when the lakes are busy, and if I'm going to be near other anglers, I don't want to really be doing a lot of talking to the camera at the beginning of my session, for fear of looking like an absolute wally in front of everyone else there. So I'm just going to do a bit of filming there for sure, but probably not a great deal of talking, because it looks like I'm talking to myself and I might look like I'm insane. So I'm going to talk to you now and say this session is all about trying to bag a fish. I haven't caught a proper carp for quite a while now. Well, you saw a few weeks ago, 3 or 4 weeks ago, I had what did I have? I think I had 10 or more carp out of one of the smaller lakes on my club ticket. But now I'm going to one of the bigger waters in search of one of the bigger carp, and it's been quite a while since I've caught one of them, I can tell you. So everything crossed, let's hope I can make it happen on this session. Well guys, hopefully you can see behind me I have arrived. There's probably 4 or 5 other anglers on, I would guess, looking at the cars in the car park. I'm not really sure where everyone is, so I'm going to have a quick wander, find myself a swim to tuck myself into, and then start setting the gear up. see, I've sorted myself out a nice little spot here. As I say, there are a few anglers on, but they're all on the other side of the lake. So I found myself a spot with access to some pads where, as I understand it, there have been some fish moving, because the guys on the other side of the lake down this end have already had 2 and they've only been here a couple of hours. I don't want to put the kids to death on it by saying that, but let's hope I can follow suit. Short session again today, so I'm travelling light. It's backpack. I'm going to get out my bank sticks first and see if I can find somewhere I can actually get them into the ground. It looks quite rocky there, so first things first, let's sort out where I can position these bank sticks. Well, that's a good start. Well, the first one went in easy enough, but the rest of them were an absolute nightmare. I'm really not happy with the layout of those bank sticks on this occasion. Sort of wish I brought my rod pod with me, but hey ho, I'm going to have to make do with what I've got. I'm going to get some rods out of the bag and just make sure that they can actually sit on those bank sticks properly and not fall over. They are very wonky. There's one. So I'm sticking with what I know today. One rod, this one, is going to be fishing a solid PVA bag close to the pads. The other one is going to be on one of my classic snowman rigs, fished with a little mesh PVA stocking, just slightly further away from the pads, that one. That's the plan of action. It's caught me fish before. God, let's hope it does again. It's been a long time. Okay, so truth be told, it doesn't look pretty, but I think I can fish them. Time to get the first rod flicked out, get my distance clipped up. You might be able to see on this one I'm using anti-tangle tubing. It's a tungsten one, so it's really heavy, and a little hybrid quick change lead clip here. Going to clip on my lead of choice, a 2.5 ounce pair. Just have 1 or 2 casts into the zone and check that I can actually present a bait properly. Okay guys, same thing with rod number 2. Just going to get my distance clipped up, but first I need to tie a figure 8 loop knot in this main line because I'm going to be using my solid PVA bag stems. I'm sure there is a less cat-handed way of doing that, but it's worked for me. Got a nice neat knot there and a nice strong knot as well, which is important. So I'm just going to cut the tag end, loop on a lead and have a couple of casts with this as well, and then when I know where I'm fishing I'll put some bait in, I think, because the guys down the end in the pads, I've just caught another fish. Now I'm not that close to them, but close enough to be hopeful. So I know where I'm going to be fishing out. I'm just going to spend a little bit of time putting some bait in. I brought my new bait bucket with me. And in there is a load of boilies that have been soaking in some pretty stinky krill and water mix for about 12 hours. It's a bit late notice this trip, but hopefully these will draw the attention of some fish. Let's catapult some out. Okay, I'm going to get one rig out straight away. The other one's going to take a little bit of preparation. I need to bait up a rig and get it ready, but the solid PVA bag is ready to go. You might be able to see I've got the stem there, which I can just loop to loop on to that loop I made in my main line, and that's ready to cast out.
I'm being totally honest, that first rig landed a bit closer to those pads than I had really intended. It's right in there. I mean, not in there, but right on the edge. Probably touching a stem. Might not be a bad thing. I'm certainly not going to cast it again just now. Those PVA bags make quite a splosh, so let's leave that one and let that settle down and see if anything comes of it. In the meantime, I'm going to get rig number 2 ready from the rig wallet. Just going to take one of my little snowman rigs. I suppose it's going to be very difficult to see here, but coated braid, little anti-tangle sleeve, fairly long hair, stripped back just before the hook there for a little bit of movement. Hopefully this will do the trick. A nice sharp hook. Oh, sorry, I was just getting some stuff out of my bag. I've got some hook baits here and some little 10 mil pop-ups which I use to make my snowman. I'm going to start with a 15 mil crab and krill boilie. Oh, sorry, squid and krill boilie, this one. Thread that on. Follow that up with a 10 mil washed out pink pop up. Found that the two together balance out quite nicely. Just need to get a hair stop in there. All fingers and thumbs at the moment. I'm so excited to get fishing. There's the bait and the hook poised and ready. God, I hope this does the trick. I'm just going to thread on now one of these little mesh bags. So first thing I need to do actually is take the anti-tangle sleeve off. And I'll just pierce through the little mesh bag. Thread it down the hook link like so. Nick the hook into the bottom of the bag so there's no chance of a tangle. Now I can put the anti-tangle sleeve back on. That one is just about ready to go. Let's get it cast out there. I'm fishing. must have been fishing for something like 3.5 hours now, with unfortunately nothing to show for it except for very early on a false start when a duck picked up my snowman rig and tore off with it. I'm sure it was a bite, but then when the duck broke the surface, I knew it wasn't. Sadly, nothing else. A couple of perhaps liners, I feel. There are certainly fish around. I've seen 1 or 2 swirls, some patches of bubbles, but nothing that's just developed into a take. The guys further down into the pads, like really in the thick of the pads, where there's just a little clearing in sort of like the middle of all of these lily pads that are on this lake, have had at least another fish, possibly another 2 fish. I'm not quite sure because I think I might have missed one, but at least 1 more fish. So I think they've got their location just right. They're where the fish are and they're where the fish want to feed. But that's not to say that the fish won't push out at some point towards the edges of the lilies where I am, and that's all I can hope for, really. I'm going to stay until it gets dark and a bit too uncomfortable for me, really. I do need to get home at some point tonight because I've got work early in the morning, but I'm going to hang it out for as long as possible. Just really hope it pays off. Well guys, I certainly had to wait for it, but this 11.5 pound mirror is finally my reward. What a result, absolutely made up. It's nearly 11 o'clock, I've really got to get packed up and get home, but so glad I made the effort to come down for this one. Let's hope there's many more to come. Just show you the other side. This awesome creature. Absolutely made up. Right, let's get him back where he belongs. Well, it's the morning after, and after a couple of cups of coffee, I'm finally back in the land of the living. It was brilliant to get out fishing last night. I was so pleased that I caught that one, and I realised that in my haste to get packed up and away, I never really told you what happened. It was actually the right hand rod, which was my snowman rig with the little mesh PVA bag slid down over the hook. That was the one that did the bite. Stepped a little bit further away from the pads, and it was an absolute screamer. You know, 1 minute deadly silent, and it was really still and silent, and then all of a sudden all hell broke loose, and it was stripping line, and I connected to the fish, and I've got to be honest, it felt really big. I thought, I mean, it might have been my imagination playing tricks on me, but I thought it was going to be a real big one. Still, I got it to the net eventually, after a couple of hairy moments with it getting its head into the pads. Got it into the net eventually and weighed her in at 11.5 pounds. Now that's not a monster by today's standards. It's big enough for me. I was really pleased to catch that one. And the thing about it was, on that lake, it could just as easily have been a bite from a 20 pounder, and I think that's the thing that really buzzed me. It was a lovely fish all the same. Unfortunately, night photography is never going to be that great, and the lighting wasn't brilliant. And when I held it up and looked back at the video, you didn't get a really great shot of it. In the flesh, it was a really nicely coloured fish, real dark creamy colours down its flanks and a real dark grey back. It was a real nice specimen. So yeah, absolutely buzzed to catch it, really pleased. And for me, it just feels like hopefully that's the start of bigger and better things to come. It's my first proper carp, well, I say proper carp, that sort of sounds a little bit derogatory, doesn't it? I don't mean that. It's my first carp over 10 pounds, my first double figure carp since the lockdown restrictions were lifted, partially allowing angling again, and I could not be happier about it. Anyway, I've got to get on with my day. Thanks so much for joining me on this session, and hopefully I'll be seeing you again soon with another carp to hold up, if everything works out to plan anyway. Cheers guys, see you soon.